tonight we have even more text messages from Trump-hating FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Now, Senator Ron Johnson has put out a report that is raising questions about President Obama's potential involvement in Hillary Clinton's email investigation. Now, during a September 2nd, 2016 exchange about creating talking points for former FBI Director James Comey to give to President Barack Obama, Page writes, POTUS wants to know everything we are doing. All right, so what exactly did President Obama want to be briefed on? Now, sources close to Strzok and Page, they're telling the Wall Street Journal tonight that this message they sent doesn't have to do with the Clinton email probe and instead was talking about possible Russian interference in the election. So, in light of the new Strzok text, well, we need to know what investigation did Obama want to be briefed on? It's why tonight we have two very simple questions for Barack Obama and, frankly, everyone else involved in this scandal. Take a quick look.
What did the president know, and when did he know it?
All right, that was Senator Howard Baker. That was during the Watergate investigation, asking very important questions that President Barack Obama and others now need answers to. They got to answer to everybody. We did reach out to Obama's spokesperson. We didn't get a comment from all of them. And by the way, shocking. Also tonight, there's a new batch of text messages that was just released from the Trump-hating FBI lovers, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. It highlights their investigative bias and, of course, their continued hatred of Donald Trump. On August 9th, 2016, Lisa Page writes, well, he's not ever going to become president, right? Right? Now, their hatred for Trump only grows from there. On November 3rd, 2016, only days before the election, Page wrote, well, the New York Times probability numbers are dropping every single day. I'm scared for our organization. Now, the Senate report notes this is likely a reference to the New York Times election forecast, which showed Trump gaining ground at that point in the election. Then on Election Day, November 8th, 2016, Strzok then says, oh, my God, this is blanking terrifying. And the next day, Strzok follows up with a, oh, my God, I am so depressed. And a few days later, on November 13th, here's what Lisa Page texts. Pay close attention to this. Well, I bought all the president's men. I figured I needed to brush up on Watergate. And the following day, Page writes, God, being here makes me angry. Lots of highfalutin national security talk. And meanwhile, we have our task ahead of us. Okay, what task are they talking about? Now, Strzok and Page also called Trump an idiot, lonesome human being, talked about their insurance policy in case he won. So clearly they were abusively biased towards now President Donald Trump. And here's what's very important. Peter Strzok, and to an extent Lisa Page, who was Andrew McCabe's legal counsel, they're at the center of everything in all of this. Now, Strzok was a former top intelligence official at the FBI and signed the documents, remember, to start the Russia investigation. And Strzok also played a key role in the Clinton investigation, even interviewing Hillary and helping James Comey write that exoneration months before the investigation. And, of course, by overseeing the interviews of not only Clinton, but also General Flynn. And, by the way, he's the one guy who helped put the fix in, one of a couple. And that allowed Hillary Clinton to remain in this presidential race. Otherwise, very likely, if it was a fair investigation, she probably would have been indicted. And a new text message proves that on September 28, 2016, Strzok says, got called up to Andy's earlier, who we think is Andrew McCabe, hundreds of thousands of emails turned over by Weiner's attorney to the SDNY, the Southern District of New York, includes a ton of material from Spouse. That means Uma Abedin, sending team up tomorrow to review. This will never end. Here's why this is important. According to reports, what's in the upcoming DOJ Inspector General report, we expect next month, is what caused Andrew McCabe to abruptly resign at the end of last month. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the FBI officials, top officials, including McCabe, they knew about Uma Abedin's emails that were found on Anthony Weiner's laptop in September of 2016, but they waited for at least a month before alerting Congress. Now, that text message provides very key proof that's showing that Comey, McCabe, and others, they literally sat at a crucial moment on Uma Abedin's emails that were discovered on Anthony Weiner's laptop. Now, the question is why? And what took them so long to notify Congress, which they should have done? Now, the IG report is due out in the spring, probably in March, and hopefully those questions will be answered. Now, there are also other text messages from Strzok and Page that are raising a lot of red flags tonight. On May the 19th, 2 days after Robert Mueller was named the special counsel, Strzok was talking about joining the investigation with Mueller, and Strzok asked Page this question: an investigation leading to impeachment? Why are they talking about impeachment? Now, keep in mind, during that same text exchange on May 19th, 2 days after Robert Mueller was named special counsel, Strzok says, well, you and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part because of my gut sense and concern that there's no big there. So Strzok knew from the start that Mueller would be carrying out a witch hunt pretty much. There's also new revelations about former Attorney General Loretta Lynch and her involvement in the Clinton email cover-up. In June 2016, Bill Clinton infamously, remember, meets with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac in Phoenix for 40 minutes, which caused Lynch to say on July 1st she's stepping away for the investigation and she would just accept the FBI's conclusion. Now, keep in mind, all of this is before Hillary Clinton was ever interviewed by the FBI. So after Lynch's statement that she was taking a back seat, she would go along with the FBI, and James Comey, the same guy that she said, don't call it an investigation, call it a matter, Strzok then writes to Page, oh, timing looks like hell. And Page replies, yeah, that's awful timing. And then Page later adds, it's a real profile in courage since she, Loretta Lynch, knows no charges will be brought. By the way, they hadn't interviewed Hillary yet. And 4 days later, Comey holds his press conference right after they interviewed Clinton, and that was Strzok's interview, and they let Clinton off the hook. So Page, Strzok, Lynch, Comey all knew that Clinton wouldn't be charged, and the Obama administration, in fact, was rigging it, and the fix was in. All right, also tonight, even more evidence that the FBI lied to a FISA court using that Clinton bought and paid for dossier to spy on the Trump campaign. Now, last night we explained in depth about the unredacted details in the Grassley-Graham memo. Here are the highlights if you weren't with us. Now, the phony dossier, in fact, did make up the bulk of that FISA application. And in March of 2017, James Comey, he briefed Congress that the FBI used the dossier in a FISA application because they thought Christopher Steele was credible. So Comey, he just trusted Steele. Why bother verifying it? He didn't. Now, the FBI only vaguely referenced the dossier's political origins to the FISA court, so what they were doing was hiding the fact. They didn't tell the FISA court judge in their application that that dossier that they didn't verify was bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton. Now, the senators also accused Steele of materially misleading the FBI. Now, Steele was working on a second dossier. Remember, we told you last night, and he, in part, this takes the cake, was being fed information from the Obama State Department and Clinton cronies, Clinton associates. Wow. So they're giving, literally, Clinton's friends are giving Steele some of the information he's using in that phony dossier, but the rest of the information came from the Russian government. Remember? He was saying the government was the source for the phony dossier material. Now, Steele was briefing several mainstream media outlets, these lies and propaganda, in the summer and fall of 2016 about his first fake news dossier. And according to British court records, Steele talked to reporters, let's see, from the New York Times, Fake News, Washington Post, Yahoo News, New Yorker, and of course the whole network, Fake News CNN, at the end of September 2016 about the dossier. And we previously uncovered that Fusion GPS co-founder, remember Glenn Simpson, he actually testified to a congressional committee that the Clinton campaign and the DNC were very aware that his company was contacting media outlets. They were coordinating, in other words, about the dossier, coordinating their efforts to leak these Russian lies. And also remember, the Senate report says the dossier, as we told you last night, full of information from the Russian government. Wow, there really is a Russia collusion story. Hillary, Russia collusion. Then, of course, there's the Republican House Intelligence Committee memo. Remember the highlights from that document. The former Deputy FBI Director, Andrew McCabe, revealed to Congress, without that dossier, the FISA warrant to surveil would never have been approved. Now, the FISA judge was, in fact, in this particular case, never notified that the dossier was bought and paid for, again, by the Hillary Clinton and the DNC, funneled through the same law firm, which, of course, is a huge problem. And we also know that James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Sally Yates, Dana Bente and Rod Rosenstein all approved surveilling in this particular case. Now, the FBI also used the Yahoo News article written by Michael Isikoff about the Carter trip to Russia. They were using it as separate and independent source to corroborate the phony dossier before the FISA judge, except the source for the Yahoo story was, of course, Christopher Steele. So the FBI never actually corroborated the information because Steele was the source of the dossier and the fake news story by Michael Isikoff. And we also know that no one ever verified what was in the dossier. And of course, the memo shows that Steele was, suspended and terminated as an FBI source for leaking to the press. Demoted DOJ official Bruce Orr had a close relationship with Steele. And remember, Orr is the guy who had an office 4 doors down from the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who would later appoint Robert Mueller. And Orr's wife, Nellie, want to talk about just coincidences in life? Oh, Orr's wife was employed by Fusion GPS, specifically working on the anti-Trump opposition research. And Bruce Orr said that Steele said, quote, he was desperate. The author of the dossier, desperate that Donald Trump not get elected and was passionate about him not being president. And finally tonight, the memo finds that during the first FISA application for that warrant, corroboration of the Steele dossier was in, quote, its infancy stage. They never verified the Russian paid-for lies by Hillary and the DNC. So the FBI lied to a FISA court judge. They used a dossier full of Russian lies to spy on the Trump campaign just before an important American election. And America's powerful tools of intelligence were weaponized to spy on an opposition campaign during an election year. Now, the key people involved need to explain themselves. Here with reaction tonight, we welcome back to the program former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Joe DeGeneva, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett. All right, Joe, it's a lot to absorb, a lot of information, but it's so telling and sad that this could happen in the United States of America. Give us your general takeaways from the new information today.
This is now piling on in a very big way. We are headed toward a very sad ending for the FBI and senior DOJ officials. McCabe is gone because Wray knows what's in the other emails and the other text. McCabe was sent packing as a result of Christopher Wray being briefed by a number of people who have access to the investigation that's underway, which is going to lead to criminal charges against a number of people. What you are seeing coming out now in the text messages is just the minimum of what is available now to DOJ officials as they watch, sadly. Who do you think is
going to get charged, Joe? I don't mean to interrupt, but who are we talking about?
I believe that several high FBI officials will be charged criminally, and it is conceivable that some DOJ people will also be charged criminally.
What about James Comey?
I can't answer that question because too much of the information about Comey is filtered through other people. It is clear, though, that at the time prior to the election and subsequent to the election, there were a group of people inside the FBI at the senior levels on the 7th floor who decided that they were going to protect Hillary Clinton. They were going to change 302s, and they were going to make sure that she was
testimonies. Explain.
They were going to change 302 interview notes. They were going to exonerate Hillary, and they were going to frame Donald Trump. It is inescapable, no matter what all these people are saying at the New York Times and the Washington Post with their silly editorials. They are missing one of the great corruption stories of American law enforcement, and sad to say, it involves the senior levels of the FBI, and it is a national disgrace.
One of or the biggest?
I would consider this the largest law enforcement scandal in history for this reason. The activities of McCabe and others, and Bruce Orr and others, were designed to subvert the Constitution and a national election, the most serious offense under our Constitution.
Gregg Jarrett, let's start with the new Strzok page text that we have out today, and we're still missing the 5 crucial months, although they have been recovered. We have a lot more coming. There's 50,000 in total, so with each new revelation, it gets worse and worse for them.
It surely does, and one can bicker about the meaning of some of the vagueness in these text messages, but it's abundantly clear, and today's messages just reinforced it, that there was such extreme political bias on the part of Strzok and Page and personal animus toward Donald Trump, the candidate, and then the president, that these two people should have been nowhere near the investigation. And you know, some people have said, and I've watched them on other programs, said, well, when Mueller found out, he fired Strzok. Well, he was on the Hillary Clinton case, the lead investigator. Then he jumped to the Trump-Russia case. Then he jumped to the Mueller case. So for 2 years, how much damage did he do before he was caught?
You know, let me ask you about this. And the House Intel has requested the judge to provide the FISA transcript hearings. Greg, I want to talk about the legality of all of this, because we do know that Lindsey Graham and Senator Grassley, they got a chance to look at all 4 FISA applications. That was sort of like a footnote nobody paid attention to last night with the unredacted memo that they had. As it relates to the intel, I would think that if we ever got a hold of the FISA Court, considering they're saying the bulk of information to allow this to go forward was based on this phony Hillary Clinton paid-for Russian government dossier, I can only and they withheld all this information from the court. I've got to believe that court judge has got to be livid and furious tonight.
Yeah, this is the letter that Devin Nunes has sent today to the presiding judge of the FISA Court, requesting not 1 but 4 different hearings and any transcripts to determine the false misrepresentations of fact that were made, allegedly, by the Department of Justice and the FBI during those hearings. I mean, if you just look at the Grassley-Graham letter, it lays out a meticulous case of how the court was misled, deceived, evidence was concealed, but it may be even worse in those transcripts. Leon Panetta was wrong when he said, well, the Intel Committee didn't even interview the judges. I got news for them. They have no authority to do that, but they do have authority, as witnessed by this letter today, to get their hands on the transcripts of the hearings before those FISA judges.
Let me go to Tom Fitton. Tom, in this whole issue, Barack Obama wants to be kept abreast of all of this, and Strzok and Page are preparing what appears to be talking points for President Obama. Wall Street Journal says it was not about the email investigation, but from earlier comments that I saw that you made, you have your doubts about that.
Yeah, well, you pick. It's either about the email investigation or the Russia investigation. Either way, you see President Obama being intensely involved and wanting to know everything about either the Clinton email investigation or Russia investigation. Pick your poison in terms of presidential involvement in these sensitive criminal investigations. Now, I've always wondered why President Obama has skated really free from any serious inquiries about his involvement in the Russia investigations, his knowledge about the dossier, its origins. Remember, he's a politician too, was running the DNC in part. Did he know about the payments of the DNC and Hillary Clinton and the dossier's use in the Russia investigations and the FISA applications? Did he know about the dossier's use, I would think, to justify unmaskings? These are questions that have to be asked of President Obama. This president is being criminally investigated about his communications with the FBI director about a criminal investigation. Why isn't there similar inquiries into what President Obama was doing?
What about Joe DeGeneva? There seems to be some complicity here. Now, if things weren't bad enough that Hillary's paying for Russian, read from the Grassley-Graham memo, Russian government information to be used in an election to lie to the American people, then used as the bulk of information for a FISA warrant, none of it verified. If that's not bad enough, now we have the information. It looks like Sid Vicious Blumenthal and people at the Department of State are complicit in steal some of this phony information that he then coordinates with the Clinton campaign to disseminate to the lazy, overpaid so-called journalists and the media in this country.
Well, here's the most important thing about all of this. This shows that the FBI was bootstrapping all of the information that it was getting, and it was basically a circular firing squad, so that all the information was based on the same information, and that therefore nothing that was being presented to the FISA court was actually verifiable. And let me just say something about Leon Panetta. I saw his comments this weekend where he condemned Chairman Nunes for politicizing intelligence. What a disgraceful comment by a former CIA director. Leon Panetta should be ashamed of himself. He's obviously not reading the papers. What's more, he obviously has not read the April 26, 2017 opinion of the FISA Court, in which they accused the FBI of purposely and illegally and unconstitutionally leaking FISA 702 information to private contractors, which is a felony. You've never heard Mr. Panetta say anything about that. You've never heard Mr. Panetta say anything about any of the conduct of John Brennan, the single most political CIA director in history. And Brennan's comments this weekend about all of the stuff that Nunes is doing rank among the most disgusting political comments by any former CIA director in history.